Welcome everybody to Man Up. This is our first inaugural show. I'm very excited. I am Robert Lee Orr Jr. I can go by the name Bob too if you really want to get comfortable with me. But we have a fantastic panel we put together for 2021. I am so ecstatic about this panel. And since this is our inaugural show, I want everybody to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with you, Roger Wayne Sanders.
What's going on, Roger Wayne?
I know he always tripped when I call him Roger Wayne Sanders.
I'm gonna give you blunt with you. I was sharing it to the Man Up page, so I kind of caught a little bit of what you were saying. So can you go ahead and?
I just wanted you to introduce yourself. Introduce this the inaugural show, so I just want you to introduce yourself.
Oh, okay, yeah, Roger Wayne, father of 6, married, and just here to kind of keep it real, give you guys the uncut version of who I am and what it's like to be married.
That's what's up. PK, what's up?
Hey, Doc, how are you?
Pastor Kelvin. I'll put it like that. Introduce yourself.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Kelvin Easter. I am married with my lovely wife, Tanya Easter. We've been married for 31 years. Just made 31 in March. And I have two awesome kids, a boy and a girl. Well, they're a man and a woman now, so they're young adults. And I'm good friends with these gentlemen and glad to be here tonight.
That's Perry, roll it.
Hey there. Yeah, my name is Jason Perry. I got all y'all beat. I've been married for 33 years. I have two adult children, and I'm married to Dr. Sharon Perry. Proud of that. Yeah, Dr. Sharon Perry. She makes me genuflect when I come in the room. But no,
hey man, I want to do over. Not to cut you off, PK. I want to do over. Y'all making y'all stuff sound, good. I just came in, with a simple "Hey, how you doing?" Y'all made me look bad.
Ain't nobody
You said you introduced.
Y'all make me look bad out here.
Okay, so hold on a second. How do you do the rewind sound?
Go back.
All right. So introducing Mr. Wayne. Go ahead, Mr. Wayne.
No, I'm messing with y'all, man. Go ahead.
So this, all right. That's it. I'm good.
Well, first of all, congratulations to the doctor. We had never said that, I guess, on air live, but congratulations to Miss Perry for accomplishing that feat. That's pretty dope. I know that's pretty hard for you, man. Your wife a doctor and you're not. I know that's probably pretty hard for you, but you'll be all right. You get over it. You're a good guy.
I'll be all right.
You're a good guy. Anyway, I've been married for 2 years. Me and my wife Tanisha, married to a phenomenal woman, very driven woman, very smart woman. So I've been happy with that. And this is a very important work that I think we all collaborated to do, called Man Up. And the reason why I think it's significant right now in the world that we're in, because there's a lot of issues that's going on in the minds of men and how we walking through the society. I don't want to specify that we are zooming in on black men, but black men is the area that need a lot of what you will call camaraderie, unity, and so it just by default it happens like that, and it's okay, because it's okay, and that's not excluding any other men that will listen and say, well, look, I got something to chime in on. So I just want to make sure that that's understood with what we do, because we can only reach the circles that's within our reach. And so that's what we plan to do with Man Up. We're going to do this once a month on a Tuesday. The dates will be named. We'll do it earlier next month. Going into next month, we'll give the date out, and so you can know what we're going to be doing. We also want to be able to, we're going to put the subjects up ahead of time. So if it's things that men are dealing with, they can sit down and they can chime in on what's going on, because this is very work. This is more than just where we are. This is around the world. PK and JP, they do some international work. They're authors. So they write books and everything else, and they had years of mentoring men and having men talk in atmospheres that are completely comfortable, like the one we're creating here today. So with that being said, I want to tell everybody where they can find the show. First of all, you can find the show on Robert Orr page. Go to Facebook. I'm going live off Robert Orr right now. If you want to chime in, say what's up, say what's up. Or if you want to share the video, share the video. This is going to be impactfully powerful if you apply it. I trust and believe me of that. So another place you can share the videos on the Man Up page on Facebook. You can share it on Man Up and on YouTube with the Collective Perspective channel. So go to Collective Perspective, subscribe to the Collective Perspective channel, and you can catch the show on there. Today's topic, we're talking about leadership. We're going to zoom in on leadership. We're going to throw it over there at Pastor Perry so he can go ahead and do his intro about leadership. What does it mean? How to lead your...
Hey, what I would suggest maybe is that if you put the links on the in the chat, that way people can just kind of click right on the link if they want to get to your page.
If you can't see it on the page, kind of refresh the page. I had to refresh his page a couple times, and it popped up. Yeah, your page, Rob. I had to refresh it a few times before I could share it on the Man Up.
Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, it is showing up now.
Okay.
All right. This showing up now, so it's good. All right.
So we're talking about leadership today. So this leadership concept, I want you to go ahead and jump in there, JP, and tell us about leadership. What does it mean? How you worded it?
Yeah. So again, we want to be talking about this issue of leadership, and it was interesting. Rob mentioned we started deciding what we want to talk about. Rob mentioned that once he told his sister he was going to be talking about this, and our immediate response was, "Wait a minute, don't throw women under the bus." I've been doing this marriage stuff like this, men's ministry things for long time, at least 20, 25 years. And man, I don't know of any topic that'll get sisters fired up faster than starting to talk about male leadership in the home. So good evening, Brian and Dakari. But, I wanted to talk about this because I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding when we say leadership. So there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. And I think it's really, really important that we have a good conversation about that and what that means, what that looks like. So, Rob, I'm gonna start with you. I'm just gonna ask y'all some questions. So when we say men leadership in the home, what does that mean to you? What does that bring to your mind when I say that?
For me, it means responsibility. It means that it's like if you are a supervisor, right, at work, or if you're any type of person with responsibility, the first thing they do when you get responsibility, they hand you a bunch of duty lists, right? So they got you all these duty lists they give to you. So on those duty lists, those are called schedules. So I'm gonna refer to my job. I have 7 schedules, right? And so I delegate the work based on the individuals that I have to go out and do a schedule. So leadership to me, when I look at it, especially, I'm gonna bring it up. Leadership is a word that connects me to my role and my responsibility to God. So I refer it to that. I reference it to that. So I look at like when I'm gone out of here and I'm gone and I look at God gonna be like, "Hey, I left you responsible for your wife and your kids. What did you do with it?" Right? So when I think of leadership, that's how I connect it. So my point is, all of those roles or all of those people that I'm responsible for, they're on my duty list. So I got to take all these duty lists to God. Like, how did you handle this relationship with your son? How did you handle it with Justin? How did you handle it with Rob? How did you handle it with your wife? Right? So for me, leadership starts with a connection that says, how do you handle, because you're going to be the one responsible for the outcome of your name. That's how leadership is, right off my instinct.
Okay. What about you, Rob? How do you hear that? When I say that, What does leadership in the home look like to you?
Okay, so I'll first start by saying I was a victim of this before too. I had a misunderstanding of that whole leadership role. Just just like a lot of other people. Um, and just like you said, and it's not just women, PK, that you mentioned that that's the quickest way to fire up women is to talk about leadership. Well, that's a two-way street. It's also a quick way to fire up men too, because again, at one point I was a victim of this, and we tend to take that word leadership and we take it and we lean on to our own understanding. A lot of people take that word leadership, or especially men, we take that word leadership or the whole phrase head of the household, and we take that, and some men take that as a form of, they kind of use it as a tool of, it's the word I'm looking for, control. And they figure, okay, because I'm the head of the household, I'm the man, it has to go XYZ. You have to do this, you have to do that. When in actuality, the word leadership is much more than just you saying, hey, as a man, I say this what goes, you do this, you do that. And same thing vice versa with women. And I feel like, PK, the reason why it's a quick way to fire up women is because some women live in this whole realm of independency, and when you mention leadership, they're so used to their form of or understanding of leadership being in a sense of controlling. It kind of sparks a button for women. And most women, and when I say most women, real women, they aren't looking for somebody to control them, they're looking for somebody to lead them. And it goes in the aspect of not really understanding what the whole word of leadership means. It took me some trial and error to kind of really understand it. But as for me, the whole leadership simply means that as a man, I am, we have an umbrella, and it goes God, the man, the wife, and the children in the household. And with that understanding, leadership to me at this present moment, it's much more than just me being the head. Leadership is me leading by example. First thing first, if I'm, trying to get my kids to understand a certain understanding, or I'm trying to teach them something, I need to first lead by example. I can't tell my kids, hey, it's not okay to do X, Y, Z, but yet I'm walking around doing X, Y, Z. We have to lead by example first and foremost. And then you also have to lead according to God. Now, not everybody has that whole understanding of leading according to God. But once you begin to understand that whole leading according to God, you'll kind of have a better understanding of what the word leadership means in a household. Because no real woman is going to allow you to lead them down a dead end, regardless of how, how manly you think you are, how macho you are, or whatever your title is. No real woman is going to allow you to lead them down a dead end. But if they see that you're leading in an efficient manner, then a real woman has no problem with relaxing and allowing that man to lead. So I hope
this your second marriage, Raj? This your second marriage, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been married twice too. I just wanted to put that out there, because you said something earlier as far as saying that, like you did some knucklehead stuff at first, just a perception, you know what I mean? So.
Okay.
Right.
PK? When I said lead, what in your mind, what does that mean, lead?
Well, from my vantage point, and we're talking about after years of getting realigned, because we all have done knuckleheaded things. The construct in my mind is support, foundational. So I look at undergirding and support. So leadership is not top down or doesn't have the iron fist of rule, but instead it has the connotation of support, nurture, strengthen. And it's like a pillar that helps hold things together. So
Okay.
That's after years, right? You might have had some inkling of these things, but after falling on your face a few times and evaluating, you come to grips with what this really is.
Roger, you said something kind of interesting. I'd like y'all to respond to it. You talked about the idea of control versus lead. I think that's a really good distinction. What do you think about that, Rob?
Say it again. Say it again, because I want to understand. What did you say?
He said, Roger said, there's a difference between controlling and leading. And I just said, what do you see as the difference between those two?
Controlling and leading. Controlling is being biased toward. To me, if a controlling person is biased toward the conclusions and sounds of their own voice, or the sounds of their own emotions, or the sounds of their own thoughts, that's a controlling person. Leadership, from my perspective as a man, it comes from cultivating, being positioned to guard and protect what you're willing to die for, or what needs to be, because a man is always, in my opinion, a man's role and responsibility is to cultivate. So he's a cultivator. Cultivating doesn't mean silencing. It means to make sure the philosophical patterns of what's coming out of a household is in right alignment to die for. That's what it means to me. So when you say that's not controlling, that's just cultivating. Sometimes cultivating can feel like control. It's not control. It's just like you got to make sure that the philosophies that's coming out of the household is worth dying for and protecting. It's worth it, and it's in alignment with what's right. That's just like an idea of what cultivating is to me. That can feel controlling to me. That can feel controlling to the woman, because it's like we say, hey, all right, she might be saying a lot of, that's not a die for philosophy. Us chasing, getting the big cars, not a die for. We got to get that Lexus 300. That's what I work for. That might not be a philosophy worth dying for to me. So I think that could feel controlling if, it can feel controlling if it gets out of the reach of yourself, gets out of reach of what, the bottom line goal is, if that makes sense.
Okay. Roger, what you said, what do you mean by that? The difference between control and lead?
Okay, so pretty much in a nutshell, and I'm speaking in terms of, my perspective of what I can see in regards to, not necessarily my generation, but the surrounding circle of what I'm used to seeing, the generational, things that you're used to seeing, or what you grew up seeing, and what's merely around you. But for example, you'll have men who take this sense of, hey, I'm the head of the household, so if I say this, then that's just that. Example, you can get a woman to say, hey, well, I want to go out with my girls this weekend, XYZ. And you'll get a man to say, well, if you're going out with, let's say, Keisha, I know Keisha, is one of the ones that's out there, what they call it, the uncut version, the thought word. So if Keisha's known to be out there, and now you want to go hang out with Keisha, now I'm like, well, no, you're not going out with Keisha. And then the wife says, well, I want to go out, so I'm gonna go out. And then here's the man. Well, as the man or as the head, I said you're not going, so that's that. That's a form of control. That's not leadership. That's no way, shape, form, or fashion of leadership. And then, and on the same token, though, some people can do it unconsciously, not knowing that it's a form of controlling. Again, and it goes back to leaning onto your own understanding of what leadership is, or what God has put in place for you to be, your roles and responsibilities as a husband. Versus leadership. Leadership is actually leading by example. There is a whole phrase of, you are who you hang around, but then there's also a sense of, you can't pick your friends, you can't pick your family. So if there's somebody that you really close with and you want to go out and hang out and kick it with, we live in a world where, hey, listen, if you want to go out, go out. Just be respectful to your situation, your marriage, and what you got going on. Don't let Keisha's influence, become a part of who you are. So that's kind of the weighing the difference between leadership or leading by example versus, you know, a controlling aspect.
I see a comment here that I like. Brian is saying that leadership is to put people in the best possible position to succeed, while controlling is subjects things to your own will. If I would put that in a literary way, leadership is leadership is helping other people to succeed. Controlling is helping yourself to succeed. So, PK, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think when you really get to the bottom line with, again, this is developing in some type of maturity and understanding the joint responsibilities of a husband and wife in a marital situation. You back up to understanding that we are joint, we are together. My responsibility as the leader that's been designated by God, that both lead, but the male has a responsibility given to him that's inherent in his makeup to support, to band his family together. And the beginning of that stage, so that there is not the intense control or what can be misinterpreted as control, is the communication between each other to get on the same page. I love what Robert said earlier about philosophy and values. You know, what are the values that we are agreeing to live by? So if we understand the why, the how becomes a lot easier. The camaraderie or the connectivity and the support, the working together. But I think I made a lot of mistakes initially in my marriage because, number one, I'm a highly driven person, highly driven man. And that's not to say my wife is not driven, but you can be sometimes so driven that you think that a person hears your words. Your wife hears what you're saying. And that's not how this works. Communication means that we learn to nurture the heart. We learn to communicate on each other's terms, not on our own terms. And so you can have a right idea. You can even have a right value system, but the way you're trying to implement it is controlling. The two of you have not gotten on the same page. So it's kind of like persuasion and manipulation. They're the same. There are aspects of control that need to be in leadership, but it needs to be done in the spirit of meekness or humility with the two people on the same page. If there's manipulation, it means I'm persuading someone for me. If it's persuasion, then we're working together. Okay, you get my point. I'm trying to persuade someone for the betterment of the team. Manipulation has everything to do with me. So when we use the word control, it has to do with, this is the way I see it. This is the way I see it. This is the way we should do it. This is the way. And there has been no meeting of the mind and heart together to agree on how we can implement certain values. So I love what you and Roger said.
You use the word obsessive. What does that mean? What does it mean that you are obsessive in your driven nature? What does that mean? You know.
Did I say obsessive? I think I said I'm an aggressively driven person. So my type personality is a dominant personality type. So I'm highly driven. Okay. Very goal oriented. I'm very logically wired. When I go after something, I will find out the answers to the deal and I go after it with tunnel vision. Well, that's me and that's okay for me. But in a marriage, it's two shall be one. I don't drive my wife. I'm supposed to support her, cultivate the vision so that we both can walk in tandem together to implement it.
Maybe I heard the word obsession. That's that probably a word out there. Maybe I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
I think that when I think about over the years when I've had these conversations, and some of the misunderstanding, I think Roger, I think you said this earlier, but I think some of the misunderstanding comes because there has been an abuse of authority. There's been an abuse, in that, if again going biblically, Adam was created, but it didn't. And then he says, "And the woman was created," and then so people use that in some of the scriptures out of context and misunderstanding, and began to use that to say that men now are in authority, and it's not just responsibility. And the dominion that God gave Adam and Eve, that dominion became domination, right? And so, but when you look at the word dominion, it was never meant to be domination. It was meant to rule and to lead in the same way that God would lead. And how did God lead? God always said, what's best for creation, as opposed to not just what's best for the creator. God always served. And you look at the way God took care of creation, God served creation, even though he created it. And so the idea behind leadership within the home should be that men should seek to elevate, not dominate. I think PK said it earlier, this idea of support. Instead of it being a top-down, it should be a bottom-up. And when you look at the way scripture describes leadership in the home, I don't care whether you are, the top preacher in the country or a rank heathen. If there's a person who hates the Lord, when you look at the principles that he says in terms of the way a home should run, he says, men, sacrifice yourself for the sake of lifting up and supporting and nurturing the people within your household. Mm-hmm. That's not domination. That's not controlling. That is self-sacrifice for the sake of putting others in a position to succeed.
All right, let's dive into that. Let's dive into that concept so we can have a different angle of the conversation. That concept right there. It's only two people in a relationship when it comes to leadership, right? And one of the things that I could say that I think is a conflicting message is when you use the word leadership and then you use the word compromise. So we can all agree that we got to compromise. We understand what compromise is. But when you say leadership, that means a decision has to be made that means somebody has to be in a position of decision. Somebody has to make a decision, right? And it's sometimes it can be real tough and it can be real hard for two people to make an agreeable decision. So when we say leadership, in my mind, what's resonating to me is that somebody has to be in that position, in that role to make the decision. So sometimes compromise, the concept of compromise, can push people off their role, like push the role, like, yeah, we're gonna do it like this. We gotta both agree to make that decision. But that's not what leadership is, in my opinion. Leadership is somebody has to make a call.
Yeah, but Rob, but see, I think
I just wanted to see.
No, I heard what you said.
We want to really jump into the conversation. Let's jump into it, because a lot of people can suffer in the interpretation on how a person's leadership style could be. It could be people's. When I hear people talk, men and women talk a lot of times about the concept of leadership, I hear that women walk away feeling as if their man is not treating them equal. And I don't think that's the truth. I don't think men are intending not to treat his woman equal, right? But when you say the concept of leadership, what does it mean that, all right, we negotiate the direction, but then, my role is to cultivate and then I'm gonna just have to make a decision after I listen to your negotiation. We sit down and we negotiated what should be the best path. We came to it. We got to make a decision now. And if y'all not, go ahead. I'm listening. Go ahead, Rob.
But see, there's where the disconnect is.
Right.
When you talking in terms of leadership,
right,
and then on the same token, you said at the end of that, women can sometimes feel like they're being left out, feeling less than what they are. Well, there's the disconnect, because you're talking in terms of a woman feeling less than, she's being treated less equal than the man versus leadership. And just like PK was saying, leadership is simply you sacrificing yourself. Example, let's say how us four here are talking, right? And I say, hey Rob, you've been to let's say the movie theaters downtown before. Us three haven't been there, so we're gonna let you lead us to that destination. You're the best person to lead us to that destination because you've been there before. If us three attempted to go there, we'll be lost because we've never been there. So why would we attempt to head to that movie theater and we don't have a sense of direction of how to get there when you know how to get there? So what we're going to do is we're going to sit back, relax, and allow you to lead us in terms of, see, that's why I say there's a disconnect and with the understanding, because leadership, again, is, as PK said, is sacrificing yourself to help others, help your household elevate. I'm going to sacrifice, example, I'll sacrifice my weekend or my week of going out, doing XYZ, whatever it is that I do, riding my bike or, going to play basketball or hanging out with the fellas. I'm going to sacrifice that time to go clock in to make sure that my wife and kids have a roof over their head every day. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sacrifice that time every day to make sure that my kids have food on the table at the end of the day. When they wake up, the middle of the day, at the end of the day. So there's where that disconnect comes in with that understanding. There's a disconnect because on one end, some people thinking of controlling as a way of, to get you to, like, as well as PK said, controlling as a way of, I want you to do it how I want you to do it, or I want you to see it how I want you to see it. That's where the controlling aspect comes in. So when you talk about, Rob, when you talk about two people coming together and making a conscious decision and say, hey, we have to compromise on something, that's where that disconnect comes in at, because those are two separate areas. If we have to come to the table and say, hey, this is what's going on, and we have to compromise, and we have to come up with, with a decision as to how would we approach this situation, or what's the best way to handle this situation. You want to think in terms of what's best, not for me, because that goes back to leadership and what PK was saying. You have to sacrifice yourself to help your family, your household elevate. So I'm not going to say, hey, what's best for, we're going to sit down and come to a compromise in regards to what's best for me. We're going to sit down and come to a compromise on what's best for the family, what's best for the kids, and what's best for you guys. This is what we need to sit down and come to an agreement on. And if you're if you're compromised, you may be thinking in one way as far as the compromise. I can shed light and say, hey, well, the reason why I don't think we should do it that way is because of X, Y, Z. That's where I'm sitting down. Go ahead.
I just want to say this though, because one of the questions that was posed in is the idea of male leadership archaic, out of date thinking? That was one of the questions you posed, right, JP? That was one of the questions you posed, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I wanted to bring it up in a candid way, so we can really talk about it. Is it outdated? Is it archaic? I don't want to put men in a position who have been conditioned to think the way they think to be like they're wrong. It might be outdated. It may be archaic. It may be that. Go ahead.
I'll say this, and then I'll let PK or KP, pick up on it. I don't think it's outdated. It's more so of repetition of what we, as growing up, what we seen growing up, or the understanding of leadership that we at one point had. So I definitely don't think it's outdated. I just think that the understanding is kind of twisted just a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Y'all want to jump in? Y'all want to jump in and say anything of 75 years of experience?
Yeah, I think that the you talk about compromise, the fact that responsibility in compromise, leadership in compromise. You talked about that, Rob.
Y'all want to jump in? Y'all want to jump in and say anything?
Sorry about that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, the Roger, what you were saying was really good. Both of you guys. Remember again what we talked about earlier was the dynamics of developing unity between a husband and a wife, just like running a team. I was senior director over a group of people. At one time, I almost had 30 employees that I was working with, but I have 4 managers. 3 managers work with me. I worked in consensus. Very seldom would I dominate, or what I should say the word dominate, but dictate a direction. Because I value the impartation from the members of the team, my leadership team. And what has to happen is your ego and all of that has to fall to the ground. Now, I explain to people all the time, in a husband and wife relationship, the truth is there are times where my wife leads. Now, that sounds funny, but it's truthful in that there's wisdom that maybe she is sensing. And because she respects me, she will not dominate that direction, but I sense that that's the wisdom of God, and we go in that direction. Now, ultimately, I'm the one, because she's permitting me to respect and honor. But if you're one-sided with this is the way we do it, then you shut down. We're 2 human beings. We're supposed to be joint heirs and partners in this. So the word dominance, like Jay said earlier, Pastor Jay said the word dominion is never for people. Dominion is always for things. Inanimate objects, dominion operates from that perspective. Over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth, and anything that's foreign that should not be, we are to have dominion over. But with each other, you don't have dominion over each other. Even in this conversation with the 4 of us, in any sector, if it's a healthy environment, notice I said the word healthy, then no one's dominating anyone. Anytime there's dominance, you have corruption. So there should never be, in any situation, dominance over people. Now, dominance over people doesn't mean you're not direct. It doesn't mean you're not decisive. It doesn't mean we're not aggressively approaching a thing, right? There are times, even in my leadership in all organizations I run, I have to be direct and say, this is the way we're taking. But the way I handle others, I'm not to dominate their soul. We're to work together in cultivating a relationship. Now I'll say this, and I know Pastor Jay wants to say something with this. Everything I'm talking about now has everything to do with developing this working together, teamwork, camaraderie, leadership, compromise. It is not a dictatorship.
I think there's a couple of things. There's a lot of stuff that's been said. Let me comment on just a few things. One, you talk about, I started saying this earlier, you have these 2 constructs of leadership, 2 models of leadership. One of them is a pyramid, it's top down. What I say is. The other is a puzzle. We're all equal. The top down model is the one that historically we have used in the world. And when it historically has been done, that has created so many of the problems we have now, because it's the man at the top, dad at the top, husband at the top, you do what I say, you're under my thumb. That creates a resistance and a backlash, especially now when so many rights have been given to women. Women had the rights they should have had in the first place, and then men have dominated that. Now there's a backlash against anything with that. So that top-down construct is unhealthy. The puzzle piece is like, wait a minute, we're equal, because I think the key word is respect. You have dominion over things. We have respect for each other. And so that mutual respect does not, so I look at it like this. When I talk about the puzzle piece, you ever put together a puzzle? When you put together a puzzle, how do you know what the puzzle looks like?
The box, the front of the box.
The box top, right? So somebody got to have a box top. If you don't have a box top, you don't know what you're doing. And so I think when I think about within a home, somebody got to have a box top. Somebody has to say, wait a minute, you know what, here, what about this? That doesn't mean that person is smarter. Doesn't mean that person has the authority to tell nobody, you can't do this unless I tell you can touch it. That's controlling. But having the box top saying, yeah, I have the responsibility. I am going to be held accountable for what happens in the home. But that doesn't mean that I get to override shot over you because I don't like what you're saying. I am ultimately held responsible for what happens, which means I need to operate with wisdom, with care, with respect for the fact that each person in this home has something they can offer. I just know that ultimately I'm going to be accountable for it, but then I can't operate out of fear, saying if I'm going to be held accountable for it, you're going to do it my way.
That's right.
That moves over to control.
Yeah.
Right? So I think that the issue of mutual respect, I think it's in the scripture talks about respect one another, submit to one another, right? That is the key. It is the issue of submitting to one another. So that's one thing I want to say, the issue of respect versus domination.
I'm gonna throw a comment at you real quick while you're talking. Shouldn't both have access to the box top, as in we both should be able to see? That was a question by
I didn't say that the man held the box top in the room under lock and key. I didn't say that. I said that on a football, let's look at a football team. Let's put it that way, and I'll come back to the box top. Look at a football team. How many quarterbacks are there on the football team? One. That person has been given a leadership responsibility for the moving of the team. But can the quarterback, I don't care how great he is, how fast he is, how strong he is, how smart he is, can he do that without the other players on the team?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. He is totally dependent upon the players on the team, but he has been given a position of responsibility to lead that team. But he just doesn't say, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. Let the lineman lay down and we see how well he does his job. See, so it is not an issue of dominance. It is not an issue of I don't compromise because I'm the leader. A good leader will listen to everything and say, oh, okay, what do we need to do together in order to compromise? I would be an idiot not to listen to my wife.
Right.
I would be a flat out idiot not to listen. The issue is not that the issue, you all, is, and that's where we get it twisted, because we start to get that ego in the way, and we get in trouble because of that.
And I'm learning that. I'm definitely learning that. Definitely start. My wife, would fuss at me a lot, and I'm definitely starting to learn that I really got to listen to her. And like you said, PK, that whole ego situation. You know, I had to let that ego guard down and understand that my wife is just as equal or important as me. And I know 100% that she's not going to lead me in a direction that I shouldn't be in, just as well as she know I'm not going to lead her in a direction. And it goes back to what KP was saying. You know, my wife, you know, at this present moment, there are a lot of situations that my wife will lead on, and I step back and allow her to do that because I know that's what's best for us and that's what's best for the household. But that's the problem with our generation. We have a hard time letting that ego or letting that guard down, allowing the woman to lead because we feel like it interrupts us as the head or interrupt us as a leader, or it kind of, you know, devalue us with that role. A lot of people take that role and kind of run with it. And that's why I'm saying, you know, I was a victim of that at one point, but I'm, you know, just like also like KP said, developing. You know, the more you develop, the more you learn, the more you'll see, the brighter you'll see rather, and it'll kind of open that gate for you, like myself, to start kind of relaxing. So now a lot of situations, I'll step back and let my wife take care of it because I know that she, you know, I know that she's at the end of the day, she's doing this in regards to it being the best for not just herself, but me as well as the household.
Let me say this. Parnell Robinson says there are a lot of our ideas that are derived from pop culture. God's idea of leadership is never archaic, but we may have learned, which we may need to unlearn, that leadership is what is that?
Patriarchal
proposition. So anyway, KP, go ahead. Or PK.
So this is where if we interject biblical ideology, okay, into this conversation, and we have done that, this is where we cannot disannul, but we need understanding. You know, wisdom is the principal thing, but in all our get an understanding. The scripture does say that Christ is the head of the man and the man is the head of the woman. That is biblical. That is text. There are roles and responsibilities. And just like on a football team, they don't have equal roles. Okay. But everybody has a responsibility. Everybody is not the quarterback. Those are designated responsibilities to run the offense. But the quarterback is not the wide receiver. Neither is he the front line. The kingdom of God is primarily governed by the love of God. And meekness or humility is the nature that comes out of that love. A marriage relationship is the reason it's so difficult is because it is the highest order and the highest institution in the earth that models the Godhead. So you don't see the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit fighting. No, it's my turn. No, it's your turn. No, it's my turn. There is not a jockeying for anything. The spirit of love is what we want dominant in any relationship in order for it to have its maximum output. So roles are roles and responsibilities are responsibilities. So this is where people begin to move, go with the culture, and we move away. We're talking about biblical text now, biblical ideology, and say, well, we're both created equal. We are created equal physically. We're not equal in roles. But the role of a man in his family is not a dominating, condescending role. It's a Christ role, which is to die for. So if I'm going to look at the highest order of that, look at Christ and how he treats man.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that it is that kind of mutual relationship. I think that where we struggle.
It is
That is the problem, is that if men operate out of the basic principle of love sacrificially, then he's going to do whatever is necessary in order to help his family succeed, to help his wife succeed. If he does that, then that woman is not going to have any problem of walking alongside. Victoria said something at the very beginning. It was an early statement that I never could get to.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, she made that statement. I don't know if you can go back to that, Rob, the very first comment that Victoria Thomas made, I think.
Okay,
it was the first or second comment that she made. And so if we look at this as a cycle, okay, she told me I would truly like to give leadership. And I think I forgive me if I'm wrong on this, Victoria. I think you might be meaning I would be willing to submit to leadership as long as it's handled accordingly. Okay, but here's the cyclical nature, and the problem is that we hear one side and we don't finish the cycle. If men would sacrifice themselves to do whatever is best to help their wives succeed, and the wife would say, I understand the role that we all have different roles, and your job is to help me succeed. I'm going to follow your leadership, but you know that I'm going to follow a leadership that's going to help me succeed. You see, so when you put those two together, you can't say woman submit to an idiot. And you don't say man lead with an iron fist. When you have either of those not operating, the team doesn't work well.
Correct.
Right? And so it's both of those things. The problem is that we hear one side get mad and react to it, right? And instead of hearing the whole conversation and saying, what do I do as a man to help lift you up? And the woman is saying, I recognize that you're the quarterback, and so therefore I am going to choose as an equal. Men and women are equal in function, but we're equal under God's eyes. We just play different roles. And therefore the respect comes back into there again. Do I respect the role that you play as my wife? Do you respect the role that I play as a husband? And it goes and everything else.
KP, if you don't mind, let me add this. Here's in based off what you're saying, that's the problem right there. Most women, and not just women, men as well, they don't respect that role. And this is not to throw anybody under the bus, but this is only for the betterment of helping people understand, the point and perspective I'm getting at. But I was told in my last marriage, and these were words when we sat before a counselor, and the words were stated, the Bible is biased to women. It states that it gives man more power than women. That's a problem, because you have a lot of women, or not just women, you have a lot of women and men who think vice versa. And that's where the disconnect comes, and that's where you have a problem with the man leading, because that's where you have a problem with the man leading, or that's where you have a problem with the man saying, hey, this woman won't submit to me. Because everybody is leaning onto their own understanding, or you got people who are saying, hey, I agree with this portion of the Bible, but I don't agree with that portion of the Bible. But then in the same token, you got some people who don't even pick up the Bible, but want to be married, but want to succeed. So you have, in that sense, when we speak it in terms of leadership, we have to break it down in terms of a way where people who are not so biblical can understand. I feel like a marriage cannot be successful without it being biblical, because marriage was created through God. This is my personal belief. A lot of people believe otherwise. And a lot of people try to do this thing called marriage without having some sort of sense of God or it being biblical at any point. But I say all that to say, you have people who really think, and I don't think it's done consciously. I think it's a way of being conditioned in how people were raised, or what people saw growing up, or what people really understood, or what was taught to them. You have some, pastor figures who would teach in a manner that's not really a way in which you should teach. I've came across that a couple different times. So I say that to say I don't think it's consciously done when people, have that mindset of, or the Bible is biased to this, or the Bible is biased to that. I just feel like that there's at some point there's a disconnect in what it really means biblically versus what you're taught, and that causes for a lot of friction and disconnect.
I would agree with that. DK, you gonna say something?
Yeah. Once again, if you're spot on there, Lilith. I heard someone, a gentleman, was sharing some things about this, and a lot of things in Scripture we oxymorons or paradoxes. You're trying to grasp the ideal of the Father in a fallen world, or in our brokenness. We're trying to comprehend how to live out the original plan. And because pride is the seed of the failure of humanity, it is the seed, this egotistical, self-oriented thing impacts both the male and the female. Depending on my rearing, and even if I was reared in the greatest of homes, I still have this defect where my ego, myself, my pride tries to jump and gain the ascendancy and to destroy whatever I put my hand to. And that's male and female. You cannot have a healthy relationship without submission mutually. Now, one guy said this to me when I made that statement to him. He says, no, that's you're grafting in from culture. You're making a statement that's from the American culture. I said, no, I'm not. I said, show me a relationship that works without submission. There is not one. It's not a relationship. It's not. There must be. I said, no, I'm not. I said, show me a relationship.
You're echoing. You got something on in your background? You're echoing.
There is not one. I don't have anything in the background. Okay. So what we're talking about here is we're co-equals absolutely in the grace of life, but God has given responsibilities and roles. Those roles do not mean that I'm dominant. The scripture speaks about submission. Matter of fact, in Ephesians, it says, submit one to another. Then it says, wives, submit to your husbands. So I've had people start at the next verse and leave out submit one to another. No, you can't have a relationship that's healthy. You can have something, but it ain't going to be no relationship. That's a dominant something that's going to go bad, okay? So it's pride that causes the problem. I will say this. Inherent in both the male and female is perfect alignment. Inherent in each of us is perfect alignment. If a man treats his woman as a queen, it's easy for her to yield. And most women will not want that role and responsibility in weight. But because we have been misaligned, corrupted in our thinking, toxic in our masculinity, then we struggle to demonstrate a pattern that allows a woman to want to submit that, and again, it's mutual submission, but to respect and honor that headship.
I'm gonna throw a big old piece of meat out there at the end of our show. We already got about a minute. We got about 60 seconds left. But I'm gonna throw a big old piece of meat. You said women want to get treated like a queen, but here's my question: a queen to what? A king? So how's the king?
I'm saying the scripture says, husband, love your wives as Christ loved the church.
Yeah.
That's to take a bullet. King Jesus is our example of how they want to be treated.
Gotcha.
So I'm not talking about some ideal from the hip hop world. I'm not talking about some ideal from some dynasty or some United Kingdom or anything. I'm talking about the kingdom of God,
Right.
which has no pride governing it. God doesn't have pride governing it.
Right.
Can I?
Great discussion.
I know we're out of time, but let me just say this. Rob just threw out the steak to do. And here's the deal. This is what I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that God has called us as men to treat our women like queens, even if they don't act like queens. It's to treat them like queens until they figure out that's who we are. If they are full of the devil, then we love the hell out of them. Okay?
Literally.
Right? And so I'll just say this real. That is the deal. And if I say it to my son, and I've said this publicly, so I don't mind saying it here. On prom night when he was in high school, next to this beautiful girl, he's about to go out to the prom, and these were my exact words to him. I said, I don't care if she climbs up on the table butt naked with an apple in her mouth saying, come get it, big boy. Your job, I said, tonight, she is the queen, you are the king. Your job as the king is not to take advantage of her weakness or her misunderstanding or her misidentity. Your job as the king is to cover her in every way and treat her with the respect that you owe her, regardless of the respect that she gives herself. So you cover her. Mm-hmm. That is what you do. If you have to take off your jacket and cover her, if you emotionally, spiritually, physically, whatever you need to do, you don't. A real man does not take advantage. A real man elevates her to help her understand who she is. When men operate in that kind of kingship, it will transform women into the queens they're supposed to be. And even if they don't operate as queens, we still treat them that way. It is not 50-50, it is 100-100. That is, when we understand that, that will transform families, because now we're stopping talking about, well, I'm gonna get mine. No, I need to respect, I need to empower, I need to do everything I can to help you who you're supposed to be without regard for even what it costs me. If I enter into that relationship, even if I'm not in a marriage relationship, my response to women should be to treat them as God sees them and how they're supposed to be, not what the world tells me or even how they treat themselves.
Absolutely. Real quick, Roger Wayne, hey, plug yourself, man. If somebody want to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you, sir?
Social media, Roger Wayne Sanders. That is on all social media platforms. That is my name, Roger Wayne Sanders. Not an expert, but I try every day, to be the best that I could possibly be. If you follow me on social media, you'll see the platform that me and my wife has built. Like I said, we're not perfect. We're learning every day. So I don't want nobody to take this out of context and think that, we're marriage gods. That's definitely not the case, because we definitely deal with, things out, behind the social media wall. We deal with things. But I say all that to say that every day we strive to build a platform where we're heading down a straight and narrow direction. So you can reach me on all social media platforms, Roger Wayne Sanders. That's it.
PK, plug yourself, sir.
Yeah, you can catch me here, Kelvin Easter, under social media as well, Instagram. Also, I'm under Destined to Win Christian Center. I'm also under Transform Men. I'm under a lot. So just look under Kelvin Easter, and when you find that, you can plug in. I'm looking forward to these conversations. The issue here at hand for us all is, if you really want to know the truth, is how do we grow in God's humility? Because that will allow us to operate in the highest order of respect and honor toward each other and in a marriage. So, yeah, that's how you catch me.
JP, plug yourself, sir.
Yeah, actually, you can catch me live every Sunday morning. I do a spiritual formation class every Sunday morning live on YouTube on my Facebook page. But just find me, Jason Perry. I think I forgot who says their Facebook address. Who actually even knows that? Okay, but if you look me on there, but then on YouTube as well, it's youtube.com /JP60, and then also just put my my Twitter handle is in the link as well. And it's also, if you want to reach me, email jperry12871 at gmail.com.
Well, you can catch me, Robert Orr, on Facebook, Robert Orr, or you can also catch me on YouTube. Go to YouTube, Collective Perspective page, subscribe, like, hit the notification bell so you can get all content that's coming. We got 2 programs running, Collective Perspective on Sundays at 7:00 p.m. And we also have Man Up is going to be running on Tuesdays once a month. We will let you know the time frame in which it is based on our scheduling, but we're going to make sure that we stay committed to this, to make sure we get these conversations and information out there so that people can make conscientious decisions on purpose on how to be successful in their relationships, no matter how hard it may be. You may listen to this show, it may be going all well, you may be getting amens, but then you got to apply it when you and your spouse behind the scenes, when nobody else can see how hard it really is. But that is why we have these conversations, in order to get this information to you. So that's where you can catch me at. And you also can catch me on Jawjacking on YouTube. I do another platform for another different group of men that I'm hoping to interweave all men that we know into a room that we all can have a conversation. So Jawjacking on YouTube, like and subscribe to their YouTube channel. And thank y'all for listening. Catch y'all next month with the same topic. And we are not in a rush at all to go through these conversations slowly. We may have to recap on this leadership conversation because there may have been some things that was missed in this conversation, but we're not in a rush. We did that show already. No, point is, we don't want a thought miss. We don't want a point miss. We want to get to those subjects that people can have the right information to make the right decisions. With that, we are out. JP,
hey, Rob, real quick.
Before
we go. Real quick before we go. Something I feel like is important because of the audience that's watching. Pastor KP, KP and PK, y'all getting the uncut version of me. Y'all follow me on social media. You got to cover your eyes. You got, because I ain't made it to y'all. I ain't advanced to where y'all at yet. And we got a lot of people who obviously, especially the crowd, the audience, you got a lot of people who hasn't advanced to that level as well.
Right.
So we want to make sure that we can kind of attract them and kind of, cater to them as well as everybody else who's made it to that spiritual side of their world. And I'm very spiritual. I'm just not at that point in my life yet. So that's why I said y'all get the uncut version of me. Y'all follow me on social media.
No judgment zone. No judgment zone.
He like those AKs, man. He wants to see these big things he got.
I'm just saying, man. Look, my content is a little, it's respectful, but me and my wife have fun. But I say all that to say, listen, nobody's perfect. We're not living in that spiritual world in our point of our life, but we are, so to speak, we do have a platform where a lot of people idolize what we have. Again, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect. I've made a lot of mistakes and I'm still learning every day. So I just want people to know and understand that, we're not perfect and we know that you're not perfect. So I don't want, some of the audience to feel like because they haven't reached that spiritual part of their life that we're not trying to reach them or this is not for them. We're trying to reach any and everybody who's struggling, just like myself. Certain situations. Rob, me and you had a conversation about 2 weeks ago, and you were telling me about some things that you were going through, and I told you, Rob, I've been through that exact same thing, and I'm still dealing with it, and this is how I'm getting over it. So I say that to say that we just want the audience who haven't reached that point in their lives to understand that, you know, we here to kind of help and guide everybody through our experiences. We're not guides. We're not, you know, experts. No, you know, definitely not a Derek Jackson. Definitely don't want that title. I'm just, you know, speaking in terms of my experience and how I've learned and how I'm learning and what I'm still currently growing through and developing. And that's it.
That's what's up. All right. Anyway,
Very
thank
good.
y'all for listening to Man Up. Catch y'all next month. As always, love. Deuces.